The knock didn't sound like a knock, it sounded like an explosion. 3 brutal bangs that rattled the glass panes of my tiny flat in Verona. My first thought wasn't fear, it was irritation. I was editing my gaming stream, headphones on, a mug of cold coffee sweating beside my keyboard. But then the 4th hit came, heavier, sharper, and my entire door caved in. Police. Hands where we can see them. For a split second, I thought it was a prank. A ridiculous collab stunt. Until a swarm of black-armored officers stormed my apartment. Their boots thundered across my floor, their shouts slicing through my brain like glass. One of them grabbed my wrist, twisting it behind my back before I could even speak. My body hit the desk so hard the monitor flickered. What's happening? They didn't answer. A zip tie bit into my skin. My face was pressed against my keyboard, the letters imprinting into my cheek. I could taste metal and dust. Somewhere behind me, my neighbor screamed in Italian. A woman's voice finally cut through the chaos. Calm, firm, authoritative. Lila Hart, you're under investigation for the disappearance of Adrian Voss. My breath froze mid-scream. Adrian. The name punched the air right out of me. He was my best friend's ex-boyfriend. I hadn't seen him in weeks since the breakup, since the night Amara cried into a bottle of wine and swore she'd never forgive him. I barely even liked the guy. But missing? You're making a mistake. I choked out. I didn't even know he was gone. The lead officer didn't flinch. She nodded at my computer. We have your messages. What messages? She swiped through her phone, then turned the screen toward me. My stomach dropped when I saw the text thread, our dark jokes, the screenshots, the game chat. Just trapped him in the red room. No food, no doors. Watching him panic is so satisfying. Next, I'll set the kitchen on fire. No alarms. No escape. I stared wide-eyed. That's not real. It's from Virtual Life. It's a simulation game. Her eyes were ice. A simulation where you digitally torture a man named Adrian Voss? It's a joke. He cheated on my best friend. She thought it was funny, so I made a character of him in the game. It's not. She interrupted, scrolling again. 2 days before Adrian disappeared, you wrote, already deleted all exits. No way out this time. Her tone was clinical, but the words dripped like venom. I wanted to scream. To explain that in Virtual Life, removing doors and ladders was a meme, a twisted, dark humor coping mechanism for heartbreak. But standing there, with guns, flashlights, and cameras aimed at me, it didn't sound like humor. It sounded like confession. My parents arrived moments later, dragged in by officers from the building hallway. My mother's hands trembled violently as she saw me cuffed. My father tried to demand an explanation, but the officer silenced him with a raised hand. Your daughter has been planning this, the detective said coldly. She turned her phone toward them. Here are her texts. My mother gasped. My father's face went pale. Mama, Papa, it's just a game. I cried. Ask Amara, she knows. The detective scrolled again. Your friend actually told you to stop. This is getting creepy. Maybe enough now, she wrote. You replied, no way. He deserves every punishment. I felt like I was drowning in my own words. I tried to breathe, but the room was spinning, the broken door, the flashing lights, my mother's sobs. Every message I'd sent for a laugh was now evidence of a crime I didn't commit. When they started bagging my computer, I screamed. Check the game. It's all there. You'll see. But no one listened. Then the detective's phone rang. She answered, her expression shifting slightly as she listened. Her eyes flicked toward me, uncertain now. She walked to my desk, glancing at the computer screen still glowing softly. And then her face changed completely. She leaned closer, watching my Virtual Life character pacing in a digital room, cartoonish, harmless, absurd. Above his head floated the name, Adrian Voss. The detective straightened. For the first time, her voice wavered. Cut her loose. The zip ties snapped. My wrists burned, but I didn't move. The officers began to leave, the chaos fading into silence as quickly as it had erupted. I stood there, shaking, my computer screen flickering innocently. That's when my father said softly, Lila. Adrian isn't missing. My heart stopped. What? He's been staying at a men's shelter across the river. I saw him there 3 days ago. The detective froze mid-step. The silence that followed felt heavier than the raid itself. No one spoke for a full 10 seconds after my father's words landed. The detective's pen froze midair, her eyes narrowing just slightly as if she hadn't heard him right. "You saw Adrian Voss?" she asked carefully. Dad nodded, his voice trembling but certain. "At the St. Verena men's shelter across the Adige River. I volunteer there every weekend. He's been staying there for at least 2 weeks. I didn't know he was reported missing." The detective exhaled sharply, then motioned to one of the officers. "Get confirmation." The moment she stepped aside to make the call, my mother turned to my father, her voice trembling with disbelief. "You saw him and didn't say anything?" Dad's face flushed. He looked fine. "I thought he was volunteering. How was I supposed to know?" "How?" she snapped, tears in her eyes. "Our daughter was nearly arrested, that's how." I stood frozen between them, the chaos still ringing in my ears, the crash of boots, the sting of the zip ties, the thundering of my heart. My wrist still burned where plastic had cut through skin. I could barely process words, let alone the argument unraveling before me. Then the officer on the phone turned, her tone urgent. "Confirmed. Adrian Voss is alive and currently at the shelter. Staff reports he's been there for over 10 days. The detective went completely still. For a moment, the authority in her face softened into something almost human. She nodded once, slowly, then said, "Release all units. We're done here." Just like that, the swarm of black-clad officers melted away, leaving our living room in ruins, papers scattered, drawers open, the front door splintered off its hinges. The silence that followed was unbearable. My mother sank onto the couch, shaking. My father paced, muttering curses under his breath. The detective hesitated before approaching me. "Miss Hart," she said quietly, "you'll be contacted for a formal statement." I apologized for the distress. Distress. The word sounded almost comical after what had just happened. When they finally left, my mother clung to me so tightly I could barely breathe. My father just stood there, looking at the wreckage of our home like he didn't recognize it. I wanted to collapse. But instead, I picked up my phone from where it had fallen under the desk and called Amara. She answered on the second ring, her voice frantic. "Lila, what happened?" "People online are saying the police raided your flat." "They did," I croaked. "They thought I kidnapped Adrian." "What? That's insane. You didn't even." "I know. But he's alive. At a shelter. My dad saw him." There was a pause on the other end. I could hear her breathing quicken. "That can't be right. His parents have been posting about him being missing for days. They said he ran off, or worse. Why would he be at a shelter?" "I don't know," I whispered. "But the detective's going there now to confirm. He's been there for 2 weeks." The silence stretched. When Amara spoke again, her voice was small, uncertain. "Do you think his parents kicked him out?" I hesitated. "Why would they?" "I don't know, but Adrian was hiding something from them before we broke up. I thought it was another girl. Maybe it was worse." Her voice cracked, and the line went quiet again. That night, no one in my family slept. We sat around the kitchen table in silence, cups of untouched tea going cold between us. Every creak of the house made me flinch. Then, just before midnight, the detective called. Her voice was steadier now but laced with tension. "We found Adrian. He's safe. He doesn't want to go home." My mother covered her mouth. My father closed his eyes. "Why not?" I asked softly. "He claims his parents disowned him," the detective replied. "Says he's been living at the shelter since then. We're verifying his story." I sank back into my chair, the weight of everything pressing down at once. The raid, the texts, the fear, the humiliation, and now this twist I couldn't even process. The detective continued, "We'll need you and your parents to come down to the shelter tomorrow. Adrian wants to speak to you." "Me?" I said, startled. "Yes," she said. "He says he needs to explain something. To you specifically." When the call ended, my hands were shaking so hard I could barely set the phone down. My mother's voice broke the silence. "You're not going alone." I wasn't planning to. I lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling, but sleep refused to come. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the flashlights, the weapons, and my mother's scream. But beneath the fear was something new. A strange, gnawing curiosity. What could Adrian Voss possibly want to say to me? The next morning was gray and wet, the kind of Verona drizzle that soaks you even when it looks harmless. My father drove in silence, one hand clenched on the steering wheel, the other trembling slightly on his lap. My mother sat beside him, eyes swollen from crying, her hands gripping a rosary so tightly the beads left marks in her skin. I sat in the back seat, staring out at the fog that swallowed the streets. We reached the St. Verena shelter just after 9. It was a converted church, arched windows, a broken bell tower, and a wooden door worn smooth by hundreds of hands. The detective, the same woman from last night, stood waiting under the awning. Her dark coat was soaked at the edges, but her expression was unreadable. "Thank you for coming," she said as we stepped out of the car. Adrian's agreed to speak, but he's fragile. Try to stay calm. Fragile. That word sat uncomfortably in my chest. The detective led us through a narrow hallway that smelled faintly of disinfectant and coffee. Volunteers moved quietly between rooms, their faces tired but kind. At the far end, through an open doorway, I saw him. Adrian Voss. He was sitting at a folding table with a chipped mug in front of him, playing absently with a deck of cards. His hoodie was faded, his cheeks hollow, his hair unwashed. He looked nothing like the smug boy who'd broken my best friend's heart 2 months ago. When his eyes lifted and found mine, his face went completely still. "Lila," he whispered. I froze. His voice was smaller than I remembered, like someone had turned the volume of his life down to a whisper. The detective gestured toward a side room. "You can talk in there." Inside, the walls were bare except for a crooked cross. I sat across from him at a metal table, my parents and the detective standing near the door. Adrian's hands shook as he wrapped them around his mug. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen," he began, voice cracking. "I just needed to disappear." "Disappear?" I repeated. "You made the entire city think you were kidnapped." He flinched. "I know. I didn't expect anyone to care." "My parents," he stopped, eyes flicking toward the detective, who gave a small nod. "They kicked me out. 2 weeks ago." My stomach twisted. "Why?" Adrian swallowed hard. "Because I told them the truth. I'm gay." The room went completely silent. Even my father stopped fidgeting. He stared down at the table, voice trembling. "They went through my phone. Found messages with a guy from university. My father called me a disgrace. My mother wouldn't even look at me. He gave me half an hour to pack and drove me here. Said maybe the church could fix me." I didn't know what to say. I'd imagined so many reasons for his disappearance. Guilt, shame, cowardice, but not this. "I didn't tell anyone," he continued. "Not Amara. Not you. I was ashamed. I let everyone think I ran away. Then my phone died and I didn't bother charging it. I didn't want to see their messages anymore." I felt a lump rise in my throat. The boy who'd been painted as a monster in our texts now looked like a ghost, broken, terrified, human. The detective asked quietly, "Do you know why we raided Miss Hart's home?" Adrian looked confused. "No, why?" She handed him her phone. On the screen were the screenshots, the ones from my game chat. My words glowing in digital ink like confessions carved into stone. He read them silently. His lips parted slightly. "You made a Virtu-Life version of me?" My face flushed hot. It was a stupid joke. Amara was heartbroken, and we thought it'd be funny. "You cheated and—" "I cheated because I was trying to convince myself I wasn't who I am," he interrupted, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry for hurting her. For hurting you. For all of it." I wanted to be angry, but the fury just evaporated. The detective took her phone back and said, "Adrian, you'll need to contact your parents soon. Officially, you're still listed as missing." He nodded weakly. "I'll tell them I'm alive. But I'm not going back." We left him sitting there, his shoulders slumped like someone carrying too many secrets for one lifetime. Outside, the drizzle had turned into steady rain. I stepped under the awning and looked at the detective. "So, what happens now?" Her gaze was heavy. Now, Miss Hart, the internet finds out you didn't kidnap him. I blinked. What? Someone across the street recorded the raid, she said. It's already online. The blood drained from my face. You mean? Everyone's seen it, she confirmed grimly. Your name, your address, it's spreading fast. The rain suddenly felt colder. The world didn't think I was innocent yet, because to them, I was already guilty. By the time we got home, the video had already hit 100,000 views. It was everywhere, Twitter, TikTok, even local news sites. A shaky clip recorded from an apartment across the street. You could see my building, the flashing police lights, the battering ram hitting my door. And then me dragged out in pajamas, wrists bound, eyes wide with terror. The caption read, SWAT team arrests Verona woman in missing person case. The comments were worse. She looks guilty. Psycho gamer vibes. I bet she really did it and is just pretending it's a game. My name trended for all the wrong reasons. Lila Hart, the girl who tortured her ex. I scrolled until my hands shook too badly to keep holding my phone. My mother tried to take it from me, but I couldn't let go. Watching it was like staring at a car crash I couldn't look away from. Every frame was a reminder of how helpless I'd been. By morning, students from my university had already shared it on campus forums. Someone even screenshotted my profile picture from Instagram and turned it into a meme, The Sims serial killer. When I arrived on campus that day, people actually moved away from me in the hallway. Conversations hushed. Phones lifted discreetly, recording me like I was some dangerous animal that had escaped its cage. In the cafeteria line, two girls whispered just loud enough for me to hear. That's her. The gamer freak. I heard she made a doll version of her ex and tortured it. I pretended not to notice, but my throat burned. By the time I reached my first class, my professor, Dr. Rossi, was waiting at the door. He gave me a look that wasn't judgment, it was pity. Lila, he said quietly, maybe take some time off. Let this pass. I wanted to scream that I didn't do anything. But instead, I just nodded, numb, and walked to the back of the lecture hall. My phone buzzed again. A message from Amara. Amara, people are insane. I'm trying to explain to everyone that it was just a game. Amara, but my parents saw the video. They think you've gone too far. Too far. The words hurt more than the comments online. That night, I received an email from the university dean requesting an urgent meeting. When I arrived, he didn't even let me sit down before sliding a printed complaint across the desk. Several students, he said, adjusting his glasses, have expressed concern about your presence on campus. They feel unsafe. Unsafe? I echoed. Because of a video game? His sigh was heavy. Lila, perception matters as much as truth. Until things settle, I advise you to maintain a low profile. Low profile. Easy for him to say. He hadn't been dragged from his own home at gunpoint. When I left his office, my car was waiting in the student parking lot. Or what was left of it. Someone had spray-painted the word psycho across the driver's side door in bright red. I stood there staring at it, rain dripping down my hair, my chest tight with humiliation and rage. A security guard named Marco came over, his face pale. Don't touch anything, he said softly. We'll file a report. But we both knew no report could clean my reputation. That night, Amara called. Her voice was small. Lila, Adrian's parents are saying you manipulated him. They're telling everyone he's unstable and that you... What? I cut in. They're saying he's lying about them kicking him out. That he ran away because of you. I nearly dropped the phone. They're protecting their image, I whispered. They don't want anyone to know they disowned him. Amara hesitated. Maybe, but people are believing them. I pressed my palm against my forehead. Amara, you know me. You know this was just a stupid joke. I do, she said softly. But others don't. Her voice cracked then. Lila, what if Adrian's post doesn't fix this? What if no one ever believes you? That thought crawled under my skin like ice. Even after the truth came out, would anyone really see me as innocent? When we hung up, I sat alone in my dark room, staring at the blinking cursor on my computer screen. The same one that had once created a fake world for laughter and now had destroyed my real one. Outside, thunder rolled over the city. Somewhere in Verona, a boy named Adrian Voss was trying to rebuild his life. And I was learning what it felt like to have mine burned down in public. But as I shut my laptop, one question wouldn't leave my mind. If Adrian hadn't told anyone where he was, how had the police found my messages so fast? Sleep was a myth after that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the door slam open again, saw red and blue lights flickering through the cracks of my room, felt the sharp bite of zip ties digging into my skin. By morning, my face was pale enough to scare my own reflection. My mother begged me not to go to campus again, but I had to. I needed to know who had given the police those messages, because I never posted them publicly. Someone had handed them over. By the time I reached the university library, whispers had already spread like wildfire. Eyes followed me from every corner, some curious, some disgusted. But I ignored them all, heading straight to the only person who could have had access to those screenshots. Amara. I found her sitting alone in the cafe near the courtyard, stirring a coffee that had already gone cold. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Lila. I didn't sit down. You told them, didn't you? Her hand froze midair. What are you talking about? The texts. The screenshots. Someone gave them to the police. You're the only one who had them. Her face drained of color. I didn't, Lila, I swear. Don't lie to me. I snapped, my voice sharper than I intended. Heads turned, but I didn't care. They raided my house because of those messages. My parents thought I'd killed someone. My name is plastered all over the internet. You were the only one I ever sent them to. Amara's lower lip trembled. It wasn't like that. My stomach twisted. So it was you? Tears pooled in her eyes. I didn't go to the police. I showed the messages to my cousin. She's in the media program. She thought it looked serious and sent them to someone she knew in law enforcement. I didn't think it would. I slammed my hands on the table. You didn't think it would ruin my life? She flinched, voice breaking. I just wanted someone to check. Adrian was missing, and your messages sounded insane out of context. I panicked. The cafe had gone silent around us. Every word felt like another cut. I stepped back, shaking my head. You didn't panic, Amara. You wanted him to suffer, remember? You laughed when I trapped him in the virtual pool. You called it justice. But when things got messy, you handed me to the wolves. Her tears fell fast now. Lila, I'm sorry. Please. But I was already walking away. Outside, the air felt colder, heavier. Verona's narrow streets blurred as I walked aimlessly through the drizzle, every sound amplified by my pounding heartbeat. I stopped on a bridge overlooking the Adige River, watching the water churn below. My reflection in the current looked like someone else, a ghost of the girl who used to laugh while building virtual houses and deleting virtual doors. A message buzzed on my phone. Unknown number. Unknown. You don't know me, but you deserve the truth. Adrian's parents are lying. I work at the shelter. He's terrified they'll find him. My fingers went numb. Me, who is this? Unknown. Someone who's seen what happens when families hide behind reputation. Unknown. Be careful who you trust, Lila. Not everyone wants the truth out. The messages stopped there. I stared at my phone, a chill creeping up my spine. When I got home, my father was waiting at the kitchen table, reading something on his tablet. He looked up when I entered. The university's threatening to suspend you, he said softly. They're calling it protective separation. Protective from who? Me? I laughed bitterly. They think I'm dangerous because of a game. He sighed, rubbing his temples. The world doesn't care about context anymore, Lila. They care about headlines. My mother appeared in the doorway, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. Maybe you should make a statement, she said gently. Tell your side publicly. But the thought made me sick. No matter what I said, people would twist it. Screenshots without tone. Words without intent. Truth without mercy. That night, I opened Virtulife for the first time since the raid. My old save file loaded instantly, the bright, cartoonish music mocking me. Adrian's digital version floated in a pool, just like before. The game didn't care about real-world chaos, about broken friendships or ruined reputations. It was frozen in the moment where the joke stopped being funny. I hovered the cursor over delete save file. My hand shook. Then I clicked. Gone. The screen faded to the cheerful main menu. I stared at it until my reflection appeared faintly on the monitor, pale, hollow-eyed, trembling. And in that reflection, I noticed something else. Behind me, taped to the cracked edge of my broken bedroom door, was an envelope. My name written in thick, uneven handwriting. I turned slowly, pulse racing. I stood frozen, staring at the envelope taped to my bedroom door. My name, Lila, was written in jagged black ink, the kind that bleeds slightly on cheap paper. The edges were damp, like it had been carried in the rain. For a long moment, I just listened. The house was silent except for the faint hum of my computer. My parents were asleep, their door shut. Every instinct screamed at me not to touch it. But curiosity is a cruel thing, it whispers louder than fear. I peeled the envelope off the door and sat on my bed. My hands were shaking so badly that the paper tore as I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of lined paper, written in the same sharp, uneven handwriting. You don't know me, but I know what really happened to Adrian. He isn't safe. And neither are you. My heart slammed against my ribs. I read it again, hoping I'd misread the words, but no, it was there, clear as daylight. The next line made my blood run cold. If you want proof, come to the old glass factory by the river. Midnight. No signature. No clue who it was from. For several minutes I just sat there, breathing too fast, trying to convince myself it was a joke. Maybe some internet troll who'd found my address online after the video went viral. Maybe one of those faceless people who thought it was funny to torment strangers. But something about the handwriting, it didn't feel random. It felt deliberate. I read the note for the 10th time, then grabbed my phone. I started typing a message to the detective, then deleted it. If it turned out to be nothing, I'd look insane. Again. But if it wasn't nothing, my chest tightened. I needed someone I could trust. Against all logic, I called Amara. She answered on the second ring, her voice groggy and cautious. Lila? It's past 11. What's wrong? I got a letter, I whispered. Someone left it on my door. Who? I don't know. But it says Adrian isn't safe. It told me to come to the old glass factory at midnight. Silence. Then, that's no, Lila, don't go. It's probably some sick prank. Then why does it mention Adrian? I pressed. Why me? No one else would know how deep this thing runs. She hesitated. You think it's connected to his parents? I don't know, I said. But I have to find out. Lila, please don't go alone. I didn't answer. By 11:45, I was standing outside the abandoned glass factory on Via Santa Elena. The place had been shut down for years, a skeleton of iron and dust beside the black water of the river. My breath clouded in the cold air as I slipped through a gap in the fence. The silence inside was thick, broken only by the echo of dripping water and the crunch of broken glass under my shoes. Moonlight poured through shattered windows, painting the floor with pale silver. Hello. I called out. My voice sounded small, nervous. Is anyone here? No answer. I walked further in, my heart hammering so hard I could hear it. Old machinery loomed in the shadows, rusted frames and conveyor belts tangled like bones. Then, from the far side of the room, something moved. A figure stepped into the light. For one horrifying second, I thought it was Adrian. But it wasn't. It was a man in a dark coat, hood up, face half hidden. He held a small folder in one hand. You came, he said quietly, his accent faintly Eastern European. Good. My mouth went dry. Who are you? That doesn't matter. What matters is this. He held up the folder. Adrian's disappearance wasn't an accident. His parents made it look like one. I stared, not breathing. You're lying. He opened the folder and pulled out a photograph, a printed still from a security camera. It showed Adrian leaving his parents' villa the night he vanished, with his father close behind him. My stomach turned. He didn't run away, the man said. He was forced out. And now that he's spoken to police, they're trying to silence him again. Why tell me? I whispered. Because you're the only one who believes the truth, and you're already in their story. He stepped closer. You were supposed to be the scapegoat. The game, the texts, the raid, it was all perfect. Until your father recognized Adrian at the shelter. I stumbled back, my heart pounding. You're insane. He smiled faintly. Maybe. But if you don't believe me, check your phone. My phone buzzed. A new message. Unknown number again. I opened it and froze. It was a live photo. Adrian, sitting on a bench outside the shelter tonight. But in the background, barely visible, was a shadowed figure watching him. My blood ran cold. When I looked up again, the man was gone. It hadn't been there before. For a moment, I couldn't move. My brain refused to process what I'd just seen, the blurred image glowing on my phone screen, the eerie familiarity of the figure standing behind Adrian in the photo. I turned in a slow circle, scanning the factory's shadows, but the man was gone, no sound, no footsteps, just the wind whistling through broken glass. My hands were trembling so violently that the phone nearly slipped from my grip. I needed to leave. I ran. The cold air hit me like a slap as I burst through the factory doors. The river glimmered under the moonlight, silver and black and endless. My shoes splashed through puddles as I sprinted back to the street, fumbling for my car keys. By the time I reached home, it was nearly 2 a.m. My clothes were soaked, my pulse thundering. I slammed the door behind me and locked it twice. Then I stared again at the photo. Adrian, sitting on a park bench outside the shelter. And behind him, a man in a gray suit, tall, broad-shouldered. His face was turned away, but something about the stance, the tilt of his head, felt hauntingly familiar. I enlarged the image, zooming in until it pixelated. Then it hit me. It was Adrian's father. I didn't sleep at all. At dawn, I went straight to the police station. The detective, the same woman who had led the raid on my home, looked startled when she saw me walk in. Miss Hart? What on earth? I have proof, I said, slamming my phone on her desk. Someone sent me this last night. She studied the photo, her brow furrowing. Where did you get this? From a man at the old glass factory. He said Adrian's father is trying to silence him. He said the raid on me was a setup. Her expression darkened. A setup. Yes. Think about it. Someone gave you those messages. Someone wanted you to think I was dangerous. It gave Adrian's family the perfect distraction while they tried to cover what they'd done. She didn't respond right away. Instead, she stood and called over another officer. They spoke quietly, glancing at my phone, their faces tightening with every word. Finally, she turned back to me. We'll investigate, she said carefully. But you shouldn't have gone there alone. If what you're saying is true, you could be in serious danger. I gave a shaky laugh. That's nothing new. Hours crawled by as they traced the message. But whoever had sent it was good, no identifiable number, no location data. Like a ghost who knew exactly how to stay unseen. By evening, the detective called me back into her office. We confirmed the photo, she said grimly. It was taken last night near the shelter. And yes, that's Adrian's father. I felt my stomach drop. So it's real. Yes. And there's more. This morning, Adrian filed an official restraining order against his parents. They showed up at the shelter after midnight, demanding to take him home. Staff had to call the police to remove them. I exhaled, the tension in my chest unraveling just a little. So he's safe. For now, she said. But I'd keep that letter safe. Whoever sent it knew something we didn't. I nodded numbly and left the station. Outside, Verona glowed in the pale orange of sunset. The city looked normal, couples walking, scooters humming down cobblestone streets, but it didn't feel normal anymore. I wasn't the same person who'd started this nightmare. That evening, my phone buzzed again. A message from Amara. Amara, I saw the news. They found out about Adrian's parents. I'm sorry for everything, Lila. I really am. I stared at her message for a long time before replying. Me too. We both played games we didn't understand. She sent a broken heart emoji. Nothing else. Later that night, I received a final message from the same unknown number. You did the right thing. But remember, the internet never forgets. Be careful what worlds you build next time. And just like before, the number disappeared, no trace, no history, nothing. Weeks passed. The police cleared my name officially. Adrian's story went public, a televised interview where he revealed everything. His parents' rejection, their attempts to erase him, the shelter that saved him. He even mentioned me by name, calling me a victim of misunderstanding and digital cruelty. It helped. A little. But the internet never fully forgives. Even now, people still send me messages. Some kind. Some cruel. Most of them don't care about the truth, they care about the drama. I've stopped trying to explain myself. I stopped playing Virtua Life, too. My new games are quieter, simpler worlds that don't trap people, don't burn kitchens, don't mirror real pain. Sometimes, late at night, I still wonder who left that letter. Was it someone inside the shelter? A police insider? Or maybe just another player, someone watching the game from the outside, waiting to see how it all played out. Because the truth is, every story online becomes entertainment to someone. And I learned the hard way. In a world built on screens, reality itself can be edited.